Didn't
Hello.
say anything, as you told me.
No problem. Oh, there is a toilet in there. I'd like a moment alone with my client, if that's okay, officer.
All right. Would you like to know the charges?
Yes, please.
All right. The charges on your client at the moment, he's looking at possession of an illegal weapon, armed robbery, and attempted murder. So that'll see a maximum sentence of 30 months and up to 20,000 in fines. I will leave you with your client for a moment to discuss.
No problem. Thank you, officer.
Just hello when you're.
Okay. First of all, my name is Chad Manpower. You are?
Nice to meet you. My name is John Doe.
John Doe. It's great to meet you. Now, we need to do something about these charges. I need to know anything in your history which could signify any form of mental illness, any form of problem, any childhood traumas.
First of all, I would talk about the situation over there, you know. So, first off, I downed the officer. I think it was a superior, the highest rank on duty. After I downed him, I made a deal with the officer. He's gonna cross the street, right? And put him hands up and let me go with a free passage. He did that, but he tricked me. There was more officer on duty. I went to the alley and I see officer with a gun pointed at me, and guess what else? I see two civilians next to him with their cars blocking the exit. Are the civilians now playing with cops? They're using civilians as a shield?
Do you have any proof that the civilians were working with the police officers?
They were literally sitting next to the officer, blocking the exit. I'm pretty sure the blue-haired woman can confirm and other people. I'm telling you that they're using civilians as a shield and using their cars to block the entrance to exit. Sorry, but I don't think that's how police enforcement should be like that. Using civilians as a shield. No.
No.
An officer who is not getting picked up by a medic in the scene where they're shooting. It's pretty weird, I would say. I've never seen that. And I asked the chief medic, that's not how it works. You can't be picked up when there's a crime scene going on, shooting, There's two things to talk about it. Why they're doing that.
Okay, I need to know what type of gun you used, and I need to know whether you had a license for the firearm or not.
Yes, I had the firearms, but the weapon was a deagle, so it's illegal pretty much. I would take the deagle.
This guy.
Pretty much charges, but I don't know about those two, man. Like I said, they're using civilians as a shield. There was two guys, one a woman with blue hair, and the other guy with blue hair too. So I don't know if they're couples, but they were like next to the car, next to the officer. I think her hair was officer with purple hair or blue. I can't tell.
And when this all kicked off, when this transpired, who fired first?
The officer fired me first. Then I used my lethal gun.
Okay, when the officer fired at you, did he in any way warn you he was going to fire? Did he?
No, he just straight up shoot me like an animal.
That's all I need to know.
Criminal.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
No problem.
Sit tight, John. I'll have you out of here in no time. Yo, officer, I'm ready to talk.
Give him hard time, lawyer.
Okay, so I have a few questions. I have a few questions for you first, officer. Before we even go into the situation with your driving back to the police station, can I ask why my client was fired upon without prior warning? Given that it does dictate that people cannot be shot unless they seen firing first. My client did not shoot first. He's willing to plead guilty to the possession of illegal weapons, but he believes that what he was doing was returning fire in a hostile situation that was not provocated by him.
All right, that is a good question. Sorry, so you want to know why he was fired upon when he exited, or during the scenario?
What I would like to know is why he was fired upon without prior warning to being fired upon. Had he had prior warning, then the firing wouldn't be the issue, and we could move on to the next set of charges. But from what I can work out here, there was gross misconduct on the officer involved on his part.
All right. Unfortunately, I wasn't present at the, when the first shots were fired, so we would have to wait until one of the officers is available who was on scene. Could attend. I'm happy to request them, but they're currently in the field. So I'm happy to request them come down here, and you can discuss exactly what happened.
Absolutely, I think it would be great to get to the bottom of this. Also, I'd also like to know: is it common for the police force to use civilians in armed robbery cases to block exits, especially when a deal has been made with my client that he is able to walk free, only for him to be led out a back door and then trapped by what only appear to be civilians, which I'm sure you're aware, officer, is a form of entrapment. Ali Werb, thanks for the follow, appreciate it.
I don't believe that falls under the definition of entrapment, but again, I would say that is not standard procedure, and I was not involved in that specific call, or I don't actually understand what the. I'm not aware of the situation that caused those the people to be waiting in the alley. I don't know if they were, took that upon themselves. I doubt at this stage that was organized by any officer of the police department.
Officer, may I say something?
You certainly can say something.
I think that the officer at the scene are using you to be the sheep, I would say. I feel like,
Okay, well that's neither here nor there.
Is
any
he drunk?
officer in LSPD has the ability to process the subject. Obviously, I can't necessarily.
Sir, thanks for the follow, buddy. Appreciate it.
Okay, but I like I said, I didn't come here to answer questions. I came here to process you. So I'm happy to request that any officer who was there from the beginning come down here and answer your question.
Yeah, I just have a couple more questions. You were the arresting officer on scene, correct?
I was the officer that finally brought him here. What specifically?
Oh well, I just need to clear up that you were the arresting officer, correct?
I didn't place the suspect in cuffs or anything. If that's what you're asking, I am the arresting officer in that I brought him to the station for process, and I will be placing him in jail.
And at any point was were my client's Miranda rights read to him or not? Lit Bill Sido, thanks for the follow.
No, they weren't.
So you're telling me that an officer that was not the arresting officer brought my client to the police station without reading him his rights. Not only that, the arresting officer on scene also did not read him his rights, and then that's not to mention everything else that's going on. You can understand that from my perspective, this looks at best like gross negligence and gross misconduct on the LSPD's part.
It could look like that, but I would direct you to read the Bill of Rights, which states that officers of the LSPD do not have to read the Miranda rights.
Fuck.
In Los Santos, that's
and I've just transferred in from Vice City, so I'm still getting some feelers for how it all works around here. But what's the policy on officers firing first? Out of interest, do perpetrators need to be warned that they're being fired upon, or can officers just shoot willy nilly? Is this a police state?
It depends. Lethal force is authorized when, when the suspect poses a threat. So, if he
By
had a
the
weapon
way,
brandished, it can be assumed that he's going to use that against us, especially given the scenario was an armed robbery.
Excuse me, by the way, I would say, like, when I left the store, when I made the deal with the officer, I had my hands in my pocket the whole time.
It's a long story, Asti.
Because the officer told me to not use the gun. Put away. I did.
I can respect that.
So, officer, I think we need based on the evidence that's been collected here. I think I'm definitely going to need to speak to the officer that put my client in handcuffs. I'm also going to need to speak to the first officers on scene, and I think it would be very important. I think it'd been very important to chat about your conduct post arrest, if that's okay with you. I noticed that you made some parking violations. You also made some traffic violations. This was not an emergency situation. You currently had the assailant in custody. He was in the back of your car. There was no immediate danger to you or anyone involved. And yet I saw you run several red lights with my client on board, putting his life in danger. How would you like to, what would you like to say about that?
All right. Well, I'm not the one on trial here. I will request my supervisor, who happens to also be the first on scene at the incident, and we can get to the bottom of it.
Absolutely, officer. I'm not here to put you in any trouble. I'm just here to make sure that everybody is doing their jobs properly. And as I said, from where I'm standing, it does seem like my client has been treated unfairly, and it does seem like we're going to have to get at the very least a huge reduction on this sentence and this fine. At the very best, perhaps some charges waived.
All right. Hey, Corporal, could you come down to the cells?
I'm gonna get arrested. So basically, Chad is he's basically worming his way in, posing as a solicitor, which, by the way, is very illegal.
That he'd like answered in his lawyer.
Yeah, it's very illegal. He's posing as a lawyer at the minute to try and get John Doe to help him out. He's basically trying to set up a network, and John Doe is going to hopefully be his first client.
Yeah. Yeah, you first.
John, is everything okay? Have you been offered a drink or anything since you've been here? Oh, apologies, officer. I know, Ian, I know.
Give him rough time, lawyer. Keep on going, though.
It's okay, it's going to be okay.
All right, my supervisor's on.
Chad! Fuck's sake, you're supposed to be looking cool here.
Officer, would you like to give me some drink or something? I might get dehydrated soon.
Yeah, I can pass you a bottle of water.
Do the dance.
Please, thank you.
Oh shit, it's this guy!
Hello, officer.
This guy knows that Chad's not a lawyer.
Anyone here?
Alright,
Liam's Ryan, thanks for the follows, guys, appreciate it.
The suspect's look.
Oh, okay. I was so confused.
Alright, he just has some questions regarding the situation and the charge.
Oh, okay.
Hello, officer. I would like to know why it was...
Here. Yeah. You can come over here and talk.
Hang tight, John, I'll be
I
back
need
soon.
an officer. I need an officer in the main lobby.
What the fuck are they going to do to me?
Are you using your inside voice, man?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Alright, what's up?
I'd like to know why it was that two apparent civilians were being used in the detainment of client here when he made a deal with the police. He was going to walk, and after making a deal with the police, he went down the alleyway only to find that the alleyway had been blocked by potentially 2 plainclothes police officers and, at worst case, 2 civilians, which is, as far as I'm aware, entrapment, given that he was promised safe passage out of the shop. So that's my first question.
Okay. Well, there was no civilians involved, so I don't know where he got that idea. After he was already well and down and done, so if you say, there was some civilians that showed up after he had already gotten, injured. As far as the one officer that was on scene there, dressed in plain clothes, that's because that officer is a detective, and he was in his detective uniform. Hence why it wasn't a normal uniform like mine. So I don't know if that answers your question for that.
Okay, that's understandable. Now, about the shots that were fired at my client, he says that excuse me. He says that he fired first. He admits that. He said that he'd holstered his weapon. He made a deal for safe passage. Upon exiting the shop without prior warning, he was fired upon by an officer. Once again, as far as I'm aware, my client needed to be informed that he was going to be fired upon. Is this not correct?
Are you aware that your client had downed an officer?
I need an officer
Did he
in the
tell you that?
main lobby.
Yes, I spoke to my client about this at length, and he said that the initial downing of the officer he believed was in self-defense. Then upon leaving
Self-defense, no.
upon
Sorry,
leaving
I didn't cut you off.
upon leaving the shop, no problem. Upon leaving the shop, he had made a deal. A deal should never have been made if his safety wasn't of the paramount concern of the police force.
Okay, well, here's the thing. I mean, you have to understand that when your client here downs an officer, we are then at that point, have to take him as a hostile individual, which he was, and he had stated multiple times that he was going to come out shooting, okay? The deal that was made with him, that was by me, and that was to get him to come out. So my other officer that was on scene there that he wasn't aware of, and I'm not talking about the one that was downed by your client. I'm talking about another one. It was a female, okay? He wasn't aware that she was there. He was then gunned down by her, okay? So now he's already down an officer, so we have more than a right to do that, okay? So I'm sorry if he feels tricked, okay, or outplayed, because yes, he was outplayed. But that is because he downed an officer. So at that point, I took proper action. Otherwise, he was just going to be sitting in the store for God knows how long, and we cannot just have that. I can't just have him sitting there camping in the store with a deagle, shooting down officers as they peek the window to try to down him. That's not going to happen. So I had to go out a different way, a different tactic to get him to be put down so everybody can be safe, and I don't have to worry about somebody holding up a store with a deagle just insta-popping people in the face as soon as they, peek their heads out. You know what I'm saying? I had to de-escalate the situation as quickly as possible and as safely as possible, and that was the next best thing I had to do. Okay.
And would you say that entrapment is a tactic often used by the
It's not
LSPD?
entrapment. He wasn't entrapped. That's not entrapment, sir. I don't know what you think entrapment is, but that is not
Sorry.
entrapment.
Let's just
Entrapment-
backtrack. Was my client offered safe passage by an officer of the law? Yes or no? That's a simple question. Yes or no?
He wasn't offered safe passage. I told him I'd go across the street and put my hands up for him. I told him I would not shoot at him, which I did not do.
Did it? Like, right there.
So would you say, in all honesty, that my client was led to believe that he was safe
Also,
to leave the shop?
do you
Upon
want
leaving
to
the
come
shop, he then was
on a
not
ride-along?
safe.
I mean, it's not my problem nor my responsibility if he didn't go about asking the proper questions, as of, if I come out of the store, I'm not going to get shot at by you or another officer, right? That's not my problem that he didn't ask that, okay? I can't be held responsible for that.
Okay, so we've got to the
I don't
bottom
know what
of
you want
this.
to be done here.
No, this is. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of everything so I can make the best legal decision for my client based on the information that I've got.
I mean, you have to understand he did down an officer.
What up, Commissary?
We can't just let that slide. You know, I can't let somebody just walk
I know it's not
forward
entrapment. I
just
know.
downed an officer. You know, he's a danger to us and a danger to anybody else that's around him. Because if he can down an officer, what's to say he's not just going to leave and go down, you know, maybe somebody like you.
No, I understand that.
You know, I can't have that.
So my next question would be, why was my client not read his rights upon being arrested? I was told the officer on scene did not read him his rights.
We do not have to read his rights. That is not something we are required to do. That is actually stated on the government website. If you go and look at that, you should know. You should be aware of that.
Yeah, like I explained to your colleague, I do apologise. I've just moved in from recently from Vice City, so we do things a little differently there. I'm just trying to get my head around how the legal system works here.
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's not a thing here. We are not required to do that. This is a, if you would say, this is considered a light city, if you know what I mean.
I understand. And finally, upon my client being arrested, he was placed into a vehicle in handcuffs. The arresting officer, this gentleman right here, he did not drive with what I would consider careful consideration for my client's well-being. My client was put in danger at least on several occasions. There was a red light that was run. There was a small traffic violation. There was a collision, and
did he have his? All right. Did you have your lights on?
I did.
Okay. Well, I mean, his lights are on. We got somebody that's in custody. We're trying to get him to the PD in, you know, safe building as soon as possible, because for all we know, you know, he could have buddies that are trying to come to break him out, okay, during the convoy of trying to get him back to the PD. So therefore, we throw our lights on and we go through the red lights as we need to get him here as safely and quickly as possible, okay? If there was a collision that happened on the way, I mean, come on, man. That could have been due to anything. That could have been, I mean, that could have been something that happened.
he did have his siren on, didn't he?
His eyes, you know, that's something that can't always be controlled. You know, that's not, I mean, if he really wants to bring it into it, he can, but that's not always something that we can control. It happens. You know, life is not perfect.
Okay, so given the nature of this incident, given the nature of my client's crimes and everything that's transpired since then, can we possibly look at maybe a reduced sentence, a reduced fine? Because I do believe that there was some misconduct on the police's part, from what you've told me.
Misconduct? There was no misconduct.
Oh, this guy's an asshole.
I'm confused there.
This guy's an asshole.
I also disagree that there was misconduct. Look, even if you know, even if you state that you know, he was misled into you know, a free passage down the alleyway, that's, you know, that's not a legally binding contract we're entering. That's a tactic, you know, used to, I guess you could say, lure an armed robbery suspect out of a building and de-escalate that situation. It's a common tactic used in police forces across the world. I would argue that that's not grounds for a less than sentence. I think, if anything, it's probably grounds for a pat on the back to us for, you know, ensuring the safety of the general public.
You understand how that looks from my perspective, though. You de-escalated a situation by bringing about a resolution that was fabricated on a lie.
Listen, again, it's a tactic we go by. It's not our fault if he, you know, got caught up in our tactic. It's not, it happens. That's what we do. We have to use these tactics to outsmart and outplay individuals like him that choose to be very hostile, okay? I mean, that's what we do, you know?
Thanks, Galen.
I mean, I don't know what you're trying to pull there with that, because that's something that gets done. That's not misconduct. That's just us doing what we do.
But as stated, there was no prior warning to my client that he was going to come under fire from any officers.
There doesn't need to be a warning. Why would I warn him after he's already downed an officer? Why would I do that?
Because to get him out of the shop and to try and de-escalate the situation, you promised something that you did not deliver on.
To get him out of the shop, I got him out of the shop, and I de-escalated the situation.
This guy's getting angry. This guy is getting very angry.
I don't have to say, oh, hey, by the way, if you come out of the shop, I have an officer to the side that's going to shoot you down. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? Because then that gives away our tactic to get him down.
My
I
point.
mean,
My
he's
point
shot
is
an
upon him.
officer.
Sorry to interrupt you. My point is upon him leaving the shop, you then have him in a position where you are at an advantage. You could have turned around to him.
Yes. That was the point, to be in an advantage, and it worked.
And why was lethal force the first option? Why was he not tased? Out of interest.
Because he just downed an officer. Why would I tase him when he just downed an officer, being this officer to my left?
Yeah, that should hurt, by the way.
Okay, so we use tase, which is non-lethal force, if that individual
I know,
has not been
Bridget, I know.
hostile or used lethal force against us. But once that lethal force is used against us, we have all rights to use lethal force back against them, which is what happened.
But would you not say that ultimately lethal force should be an absolute last resort? Once you've got this gentleman outside of the shop, you have several
It
officers
is
there.
a last resort.
No, I don't believe
And it's
you.
a
I don't
last
believe you
resort
exhausted all
when they
opportunities.
shoot us. What?
Well,
He
what?
shot-
Let
I mean,
me interject here for a second. What opportunity? What last resort opportunity did he give the officer that he shot in the alleyway?
We are talking about the everything that transpired after this event. We're talking about everything that transpired from the moment that he was offered safe passage for leaving the shop. Once he was offered safe passage for leaving a shop, and you gentlemen, how many officers would you say were on scene? Just roughly, just ballpark figure.
it was myself, the officer next to me, the one that got shot down, okay? And then we had a new female officer on scene there. So it was just 3 of us, if you must know.
What up, Turkin? How you doing, dude? So 3 officers on
And
scene.
A fourth arrived later.
A fourth
Yeah, I
arrived.
arrived
A fourth
right
arrived
after.
after the shots were fired, which downed my client, or
Yeah.
Yes.
I would think it was. Thompson.
I arrived
there, like, right
just
at the
prior to that. Yeah, basically as all that was happening, so I wasn't really aware of the whole situation. And I wasn't involved in the shots fired, but that's neither here.
So is that what the hang-up is? That he feels that since he was offered safe passage, he should have just been allowed to walk out?
no,
Yes,
no, not at all,
apparently-
not at all. No. My client
Is it
is
not?
willing to.
And the only reason I'm asking is because I've been sitting upstairs in my head, and I'm just trying to figure out where we're at.
So basically, from where I stand, I believe that my client, there should have been non-lethal force used on him, based on the fact that there were 4 officers outside the shop. He was not wielding a weapon. Now, I'm aware that before this, he was causing problems, he was causing issues. He did fire on an officer. I'm willing to get him. He's willing to confess to that charge and the possession of an illegal weapon. But everything that transpired after that event, I believe, was misconduct on the police department. On the police department. I believe that non-lethal force should have been used by the 4 officers that were outside, all 4 of which had the opportunity to tase my client and bring him down and bring the situation in, bring a safe resolution to everybody involved. Shots, nobody needed to fire any shots in this situation. You gentlemen discharged your weapon in a public, crowded street to a man who was essentially believed that he was safe.
You know what? I'll let you handle it.
Well, I'm
Clearly.
gonna say this: we are not here to debate misconduct. If you feel that there was misconduct, you are free to file your reports. We are here to talk about the charges.
Absolutely. And my client is he's willing to confess to some of the charges, but I believe, given the situation, it would only be fair if a couple of the charges were dropped. We look at the possibility of a reduced sentence. I'm not asking for much, but a slightly reduced sentence, and then maybe some money off the fine as well.
Okay, well, the attempted murder, there is no ticket for that. Okay, it's just a straight 20 months.
So how about if we talk about 20 months? What's the fine that he's looking at right now?
Well, he's going to be.
I
getting-
believe it was 20,000. I said.
So how about we can we meet in the middle? Can we look at a 20 months with reduced sentence for good behaviour and a £10,000 fine? Would that be something you could do?
He wouldn't. Okay, so I'm sorry. I think there was some confusion there. Because the attempted murder is a felony and the armed robbery is a felony, The attempted murder basically overwrites. Okay, so basically he would just be getting attempted murder, which is just 20 months, and there is no ticket charge for that anyway.
Okay, so if he's prepared to serve his 20 months, and I can get him to confess to a couple of the charges, can we look at waiving some of the 20,000 fine?
It's not a fine. There is no fine. He's just getting 20 months.
Did we not say there was a $20,000 fine?
Yes, but then I just
That's
explained to
assuming
you.
that there's an
It's,
armed robbery charge as well.
yeah.
I missed everything they said because of the dog.
Which I was just gonna hit him with the attempted murder because that's an automatic 20 months anyway. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right, okay. Yeah, I understand. So, the only thing he'll be facing charges for is the attempted murder.
Yeah, which is just 20 months. There is no fine for that. Now there's a restitution fine, which is 10K. But that's it. I mean, 20 months, 10K restitution fine. I mean, honestly, for what had happened and what he did, that doesn't seem like a lot to me at all. That's pretty, 20 months, that's pretty easy, you know? 10K restitution fine, that's not even that much. If he wants, I'll even drop it down to 5K restitution.
If we can drop it down to if we can drop it down to a 5K restitution, I will get him to confess, and you have yourself a deal.
Yeah, I can do that. That's not a problem.
Fantastic, officers. Please, I'm just trying to do my job here. You know, I'm trying to represent my client in the best way possible. I hope I haven't caused any offense today.
No, you're fine. I understand.
Really-
You're fine.
Really hard to offend me.
Hey, if when all this is over, like I'm glad that I was able to work out with my client here. Maybe we could all grab a beer. I'm new to the city and I don't really know a lot of people, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can if you want. Yeah.
Excellent. Could I have
right now,
a moment with my
obviously.
client just to could I have a moment with my client just to discuss what's happened here and what's transpired?
Yeah, sure.
It kind of worked. I kind of got it down. I know I'm going to die, by the way. I was trying to play it out.
What's up, lawyer?
Okay, so here's the deal. You're going to have to serve the time, but I've got you down to a 5K restitution charge from an initial 10K. So I have knocked 5K off your charges. You're going to have to serve time. There's nothing we can do about that. But you're only going to get charged for the attempted murder. You're not going to have any charges on top of that. I've got those waived. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. But first off, before we accept the deal, would you like call the superior, lieutenant, also the, I believe the blue hair officer I was talking about, or purple one? I don't remember.
Is he drunk?
To talk about situation about two hostages.
We've discussed this at length. That's going to be a whole mountain of paperwork that I'm going to have to jump through a lot of hoops and file it. But while you're serving time, I will do my best to locate them. And the best thing you can do right now is just do your time, just knuckle
I
down.
know the civilians though that blocked the way was a Dash Wolf. Sorry, her name is.
20 minutes.
The other guy I don't remember, but he's blue hair too. He has the blue hair.
Okay, look, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you my card. I'm going to give you my contact details. You're going to give me a text when you're out of prison, and we're going to discuss it, and we'll see about taking it further.
All right. So how long are you looking for?
You're looking at 20 months instead of 30 months, and a 5K fine instead of a 10K fine.
Is there any chance, since we've been here very long, can you ask them for 20? I would take the 20 months, but without the reservation, or like at least like 2.5K.
I've knocked it down. I've already knocked it down. They were talking about 20K to start with. I've knocked it down to 5K. This is the best deal you're going to get.
Alright. I guess so.
How do I give him my contact?
Just give me the visit card. I mean the business card.
How do I give him my business card?
Do you know how?
1 moment. I'm just checking my details for you. I have a new phone. I'm just trying to remember what my number is.
Here you go. I will
There you
take your
go.
business card.
Call me when you get out. I may have an opportunity for you as well. But just hang in there, John, all right? 20 months will be over before you know it. Yeah, I know, right, Dr. Murdoch? Okay, my client has agreed to the terms. He's prepared to serve his time, prepared to pay his restitution, and yeah, it looks like we have a resolution to the situation, gentlemen.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I can go back to eating my donuts.
Lol.
I need to get some.
Alright.
All right, well, we'll get
It's
it
been a
processed.
long day, man. I need to get some food. Have a safe evening, officer.
Yep.
Safe evening? Fucking
no,
hell, after all that
I
good
can,
RP?
I'll return your weapon to you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, you have as well. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah, here. Come on up here. Oh, you gotta do it out here.
Have a safe evening after that. Seriously, after all that?